All right, welcome to the show, y'all. We got a big show lined up for you today. So in just a second, the UN is finally admitting the dark truth about Israel. They are now saying they're definitely committing genocide. So we'll dive into that. We also have the economy is flashing bright red. We have warning sign after warning sign piling up. It looks like this bubble's going to burst, and when it does, it's going to be ugly, man. It's going to be really ugly. So we'll talk about that. We also have the Charlie Kirk case just getting weirder and weirder. Wait until you see the updates on that one. We have a MAGA crash out. I mean, they are calling for civil war. They want heads on pikes out in front of the White House. It's boiling rage, and they are completely unhinged. So I have some amazing things that they're calling for that are just, it's just wild that this is supposed to be a civilized country. It's supposed to be a high-trust society, and the stuff they're saying is straight up like Rwandan genocide type stuff. So we'll get to that. We also have a mass shooting at a homeless camp immediately after a Fox host was, saying kill the homeless people. So that's not good. I'd say that's not good. And then we also have Trump berating a reporter to his face. We have multiple black men found hanged in Mississippi in suspicious circumstances. And we have what a lot of people are calling the largest corruption scandal in U.S. history. The Trump regime was just caught red-handed in a clear corruption scandal. So we'll talk about that too. You guys know the drill. Everybody do me a big favor. Please subscribe to the channel. That helps out big time and costs you nothing at all. Support the show on Patreon. Remember, there's real independent media. I've never talked to an advertiser, never talked to a billionaire, never talked to a PAC or a government or anything like that. You guys support this show $2 a month at a time. If you'd like to help out the show, you can support below on Patreon, or you can tip with that thanks button on YouTube, or you can support Crystal, Kyle, and Friends on Substack. That link is below as well. And go subscribe to the Corn's World YouTube channel, because we do live Kyle and Corn episodes, and we do them every Monday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So come hang out with us live. That's live, so that's a lot of fun. All right, guys, let's go ahead and jump into it. So it's now official. The United Nations Commission of Inquiry concludes Israel is committing genocide. The UN body calls on nations to stop sending weapons to Israel, ensure people within their jurisdiction aren't aiding or inciting the genocide, and hold those who are accountable. So when the UN officially declares that you are committing genocide, there are responsibilities that go hand in hand with that. And that includes cutting off the money, cutting off the weapons, and we know all the U.S. does is send more money and more weapons to Israel. But also, you have a responsibility to try to stop the genocide. The international community has a responsibility to get together and do whatever they can to try to stop the genocide, whether that be sanctioning Israel, embargoing Israel, arresting Israeli officials if they happen to go to their respective countries. So now, this is a huge deal. This is a huge, huge deal. And remember, this is on top of a bunch of other agencies that have already come out and said, in no uncertain terms, Israel is committing genocide. So just to give a couple of examples, we have the UN Independent International Commission of Inquiry, the UN Special Committee to Investigate Israeli Practices, Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, International Association of Genocide Scholars, B'Tselem, which is the top human rights group in Israel. They say Israel's committing a genocide. We have Physicians for Human Rights Israel, and then we have a number of other groups. So this is settled. For anybody who actually is reasonable or rational or cares about evidence and data and facts, this is a settled case. Israel is committing genocide. So now the question is, what are you going to do about it? And unfortunately, I think the answer from the U.S. is going to be, we're not doing dick about it. We're going to keep arming it and funding it and aiding it and abetting it. So we're ruled by psychopathic war criminals is the takeaway here. And there's no way around it. There's no way around it. All right, so let me give you some more. I can't stop thinking about one sentence in today's UN report regarding Israel's genocide in Gaza. Quote, Israeli security forces shot at and killed civilians, including children, who were holding makeshift white flags. Some children, including toddlers, were shot in the head by snipers. We just covered on the show the other day, there were, I believe it was 15 doctors, and they were able to find, just these 15 doctors who were in Gaza, were able to find 114 different incidents where children were shot in the head and murdered. Again, these are just 15 doctors who were in Gaza. There's been way more than that, and all of them probably have similar stories. This is purposeful. There is no oopsie where you shoot 114 children in the head. That doesn't happen. And now we know there's recorded instances of children literally waving white flags and getting murdered by IDF sociopaths. Even though we're getting this conclusion this week, I need to also point out that this week, Gaza has just become hell on earth in a way where it wasn't even previously. So now Israel is doing its final solution. They're trying to take over Gaza City. So they're bombing it, they're invading it, they want to resettle it and reoccupy it, but they have to effectively try to move, this is what they're doing, hundreds of thousands, either kill or remove hundreds of thousands of Palestinians. So you're getting all of these horror stories where they say, look, the bombing is worse now than it's ever been before in the nearly 2 years of genocide. That's what people are saying. That's what they're saying. So here we have, they're going after every single high-rise building. Here's one example of that, or a couple examples of that. Watch this. Here we go. This is what's happening this week. This week, this is happening. You know, a lot of people say, oh, it's indiscriminate. It's not indiscriminate. It's discriminate. They are discriminately killing civilians. They are discriminately killing as many people as they possibly can. All right, here's more. Israel destroyed the only children's hospital in Gaza, leaving its 80 patients, including babies, in the ICU with nowhere to go. You know, this reminds me of the horror story of the IDF basically storming into a hospital, forcing everybody out of the hospital, and there were kids in incubators in that hospital. And then, like, months later, when people were able to come back, you saw, like, the rotting remains of babies who were abandoned because the IDF went into a hospital, guns drawn, and forced everybody out. This reminds me of that. Similar thing here. They destroyed the only children's hospital in Gaza in the same way they destroyed the only cancer hospital in Gaza. That wasn't that long ago either. I remember covering that story. Gee, I wonder why the UN concluded that they're committing genocide. Could it be because it's the world's most obvious genocide ever, of all time, and it's not even close? The reports from Gaza are of an unprecedented level of bombing tonight. Like nothing seen before in history, Israelis have been panicking, thinking the explosions are nearby due to the extreme loudness. Meanwhile, Israel and Trump have been preparing the Israeli public for the possible death of hostages, as they know they may not survive this unholy barrage. There are roughly 750,000 people in Gaza City right now. Who knows what they are enduring right now? So this is just some of the sounds that people are hearing. Just hours and hours of gunfire, of bombs going off, where people in Israel proper think they're under attack because the bombing in central Gaza is that absurd, that loud, that extreme. Haaretz says, after the IDF threatened to bomb a building containing Gaza's largest archaeological collection, the French government intervened to delay the strike while archaeologists rescued what they could. And this person says, this is the IDF following the ISIS playbook, going after historical sites, going after ancient artifacts. They don't care. They don't care. This is our land. This is our territory. We want to kill you and destroy every single thing that's on it. Fuck the history. We don't care about the history. Haaretz published a Hebrew-only article today, nominally about Israeli soldiers facing PTSD from their time in Gaza, with numerous admissions to killing children. Numerous admissions to killing children. This is like that article in The Guardian the other day. You had this sniper from Chicago, IDF sniper from Chicago, who casually talked about, yeah, I killed this family of 4 in Gaza. I killed one guy when he was trying to pick up the corpse of his brother. I was like, why does he even want to get the corpse? Fuck him. And I shot him. And then this same character was used in other articles complaining about the increase in anti-Semitism on college campuses. I wish I was kidding. I'm not kidding. And here, when they feel like it's a safe space, I'm so traumatized by the children that I murdered. Well, Jesus Christ, maybe you shouldn't have murdered them. Maybe you need to be held fucking accountable for that. That's not a maybe. That's a definitely where I'm from. Now, at the same time, they're enacting the final solution on Gaza. And at the same time, they are, and we covered this on the show the other day, you have like 1,000 men in the West Bank, Palestinian men in the West Bank being rounded up and marched to God knows where to become hostages in a torture dungeon. So they're taking over Gaza, they're taking over the West Bank, and then we also get this. Israel launches a series of strikes on Yemen's Red Sea port of Hodeidah. And there you can see, this is how big the attack was. So they're attacking civilian infrastructure, they're attacking the port. This is a country that has gone through famine recently, And this is a way to assure they're going to go through more famine, more starvation. Can't get the foods in, can't get the goods in, can't get the medicine in, can't get the support that these people need. That's the point. That's what Israel's trying to do. They want to do collective punishment to the people of Yemen because the Houthis dare to fight back against the genocide and tried to embargo Israel and block ships from going to ports in Israel. They blockaded the Red Sea. And so now everybody in Yemen has to suffer as a result of that. I'm sure Saudi Arabia is cheerleading in the corner because they did a genocide in Yemen. Now they're getting support from Israel because, again, the Houthis dare to fight back against the genocide and try to stop the genocide. And so now you got to blow up the port. You got to blow up the port. You got to screw over the civilians because this is how Israel rolls. We also have this. So this is Chris Sidati. He's a co-author of the UN Gaza Genocide Report. And listen to what he says here about the reaction from Israel. This is very telling.
The Israeli Foreign Ministry today decried a distorted and false report and said that three individuals, so referring to the Commission of Inquiry, three individuals serving as Hamas proxies, notorious for their openly anti-Semitic positions. So
the UN and their detailed report based on facts, these are Hamas proxies. These are anti-Semites and Hamas proxies. You want to talk about one-trick ponies? That's all they got is vicious, over-the-top, ridiculous smears.
Could you please comment on that?
These reports should be taken seriously, but honestly, the Israeli responses are becoming so boring. You know, they say the same thing every time. They're producing the responses by ChatGPT these days. And they spend so much money in the foreign ministry on propaganda, you'd think that they would actually come up with something original. I would want them to engage with the evidence, but they never engage with the evidence. They put the report into ChatGPT, and then they put out the standard response. So no one takes it seriously, and Jamie, you shouldn't either.
Incredible. This is where we're at. You have these career civil servants spending an immense amount of time, money, and energy putting together a super detailed report about what's going on the ground in Gaza based on all different sorts of evidence and firsthand accounts and things of that nature. And Israel's reaction is to just swat it aside and be like, you love Hamas. You're anti-Semites. And so now you get, the people who did these reports, they're sick of it. They're sick of it. They're sick of Israel. They're sick of their lies. They're sick of their distortions. They're sick of their smears. And so I can't even take this country seriously. I can't even take this country seriously. We know how the history books are going to judge this. In fact, it's already being judged properly right now. Never mind, how's it going to look in 20, 30 years? The horrors we're going to learn. I told you guys, an ex-IDF general came out and said, we killed at least 200,000 Palestinians. That's an ex-IDF general. He said, we took the gloves off. Nobody stopped us. That's what we did. There was another report from some academics that came out this week that said, actually, the death toll is, ready for this? This is the highest one I've seen yet, 680,000. So now we have a low of 200,000. We have a high of 680,000. People, and this is all being fucking live streamed in 4K. And this is going to be, you're living through hell. You're living through hell. You're living through history, and it's hell. I used to be naive enough to think that, we certainly evolved when it comes to our morality from the days of World War II, right? That's why we came up with all the, international law, the concept of human rights, the Geneva Convention, the Nuremberg Tribunal. That's why International Criminal Court, International Court of Justice. We realized we shouldn't do that again. Looking at World War II, that was bad. That was a lot of death. That was a lot of destruction. There was a fascist maniac who was hell-bent on global domination and wiping out all the inferior races as he saw it. That was all bad. We should do whatever we can to avoid that. And so I thought, hey, we certainly evolved beyond that. Wrong. We're the same fucking apes that we were back then, subject to the same kinds of biases. And now we just we have the internet now. We have slightly updated modern medicine. But the fact of the matter is, you can still have, in a sense, it's worse. Because at least there was the excuse back then. People did not know in real time exactly what Germany was doing with the concentration camps. People did not know. Now, we know. It's on your social media feed every single day. There's no excuse. You can't say I didn't know. You can only say I didn't care. But you should care. You should care. All right, we're still not done. So Trump has asked about this massive new ground offensive that's happening in Gaza City, where again, Israel is open about this now. They say they don't say we're gonna finish the genocide, but that is what they're doing. But they're honest about the ethnic cleansing part, which is phase 2. So we're gonna force them into one little area in Gaza, then hopefully make a deal with some country and forcibly remove them to like Libya or somewhere like that, right? And that requires basically an all-out military onslaught and a lot more people dying and a lot more people starving. And so Trump is asked about this new ground offensive, and here's what he has to say. This is incredible.
The Federal ground offensive is now underway in Gaza City. Your reaction to it?
Well, we're going to see what happens because I hear Hamas is trying to use the old human shield deal, and if they do that, they're going to be in big trouble. They're going to be in big trouble. They put it out 2 days ago that they're going to use the hostages as human shields. That's something that has been done for a long time, you know? Let me tell you, if they do that, they're in big trouble.
They're not even trying anymore. This is like, you know, when you have a kid's toy and it's got the drawstring on the back and you pull it, and it's like it's like a parrot, like, man, Polly want a cracker, or whatever the fuck it says. Or, I love you, hugs and kisses. You pull the drawstring, it says that. That's what these people do now. You pull the drawstring on any Israeli government official or U.S. government official, and it's anti-Semite, Hamas, human shields. That's all they got. And so now we're looking at the literal final solution. And he goes, you know, Hamas with their human shields, I hear it's going to be one of those deals. Like, are you kidding me? This is a sick fucking joke. You have hundreds of thousands of Palestinians who've been killed. They're being starved to death right now. They're being bombed literally as we speak. Innocent people being bombed. This is your fucking reaction? Hamas is going to use them as human shields. This is incredible. What's so amazing to me is the ability of these people to just overlook and ignore. It's lying by omission when you don't acknowledge what the top Israeli government officials and military officials have said. They've said in their own words, we don't think Palestinians are human. We think they're less than human. We think they're animals. We think they're cockroaches. We think they're beneath us. We want to do the same thing as the story of Amalek in the Bible. Wipe them all out, even their animals, even their children. That's what we want to do. So you got this laundry list of the most clearly genocidal statements you've ever heard. And then you go ask a U.S. politician and they go, those Hamas people sure are monsters and they're going to use the human shields, aren't they? The human shields. They got nothing. They're not even trying. They're not even trying. There was a time where they at least had to try to convince you of the propaganda, right? Think of the build up to the Iraq war. After 9/11, we did the Afghanistan war right away, but then it took another 2 years. September 11th was 2001. 2003 is when the Iraq invasion happened. What happened in those 2 years building up to the Iraq war? A relentless, assault of propaganda. It really was a war on your mind, a war for your mind. Oh, Saddam Hussein was connected to Osama bin Laden. He helped train them for 9/11. You had day after day after day after day, they would hit you with that till eventually Americans were like, all right, I guess there was some sort of connection. I guess you go to war with Iraq. The polls showed they were okay with that. Now, with these fucking idiots, what do we get? Bombing Venezuela. Nobody ever even bothered to make the argument that Maduro's coming after us and this is self-defense and we need to defend the homeland. And it's just, I don't know. Trump said at one point, we're going to take the oil. We're going to take the oil from Venezuela. Then he says, they're trafficking drugs. Meanwhile, it's only like 10% of the drugs, if that even come from Venezuela, blowing up fucking dinghy fishing boats in the Caribbean. They don't even bother anymore. They don't even bother making a fucking propaganda effort. They don't even think it's worth it to try to lie to you anymore. They're not even trying to manufacture consent. They're just acting like fucking disgusting Nazi barbarians. But I'm still not done. So Marco Rubio, as Israel is implementing their final solution on the people of Gaza, Marco Rubio affirms U.S. support for what Israel's doing in Gaza. This is from PBS NewsHour. Rubio affirms U.S. support for Israel's vision of military victory in Gaza. So Rubio's there fucking shaking Netanyahu's hand, smiling into the camera. This is the U.S. officially signing off on anything and everything Israel wants to do. The same week we learn it is no longer debatable. Israel is committing a genocide. The same week we learn that, he's smiling with Netanyahu, giggling, chuckling, supporting him as they fucking carpet bomb every high rise in Gaza, try to force them into a smaller and smaller corridor, continue to starve them, continue to shoot at the children, attack a fucking children's hospital. All this with the express support of the U.S. What the fuck, man? What the fuck? World historic evil. All right, now it gets worse. You ready? So again, the same week the UN says, oh, it's official, Israel's committing genocide. The same week that's happening. The same week the final solution is being implemented to steal all of Gaza, which, by the way, the harshest critics of Israel were right from day one. When we all came out and said, oh, they're going to try to create a greater Israel. That's exactly what they're doing. We were called conspiracy theorists. Turns out that was true. But the same week, it's all coming to a head. 250 U.S. lawmakers went to Israel to kiss Netanyahu's ass. I'm not kidding. Check out Israel's promo video for the 250 U.S. state lawmakers on an all-expenses-paid trip, courtesy of Israel's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. They'll get indoctrinated to pass anti-boycott laws in 37 states, pass the censorship laws in 35 states, purchase Israel junk bombs in 35 states and localities, pass economic development laws, forcing states to import Israeli goods, which crush state and local business. These are all the politicians that went. And a very disturbing name, too. It was like 50 states, one Israel was, the banner they had up for this event. 250 U.S. lawmakers. The same week, the UN says they are definitely committing genocide. Doctors Without Borders is right. Human Rights Watch is right. Amnesty International is right. B'Tselem is right. They are committing genocide. A bunch of U.S. lawmakers paid by the fucking Israel lobby, corrupt little sycophantic goons, sitting there with Netanyahu and shooting the shit. Now, by the way, Netanyahu gave a speech during this event. Listen to what he says here.
But do you have cell phones? You have cell phones here? No. You're holding a piece of Israel right there. You know that? I mean, a lot of the cell phones, the medicines, the food.
This is a threat. Just like when he gave Trump a golden beeper, and people were all like disturbed by that. The reason they were disturbed by that is because Israel and Netanyahu did an illegal attack on Hezbollah in Lebanon, and they ended up hurting and killing a lot of civilians and children too. They did a beeper attack. They had these beepers bugged with explosives, and they just pressed a button and all the fucking beepers exploded, right? Then you give the president of the U.S. a golden beeper. How is that not a threat? Of course it's a threat. Then, now he's got a bunch of U.S. lawmakers in Israel, and he goes, you guys have cell phones, right? Yeah, you got cell phones? Well, that's a piece of Israel you got there. That's a fucking threat. I swear to God, man, it's like we're living, like this is a comic book villain. We're talking about a literal comic book villain. And then finally, let me show you this. Now, I'm not going to click this for you. I'm not. But Omar Bader says, for how much longer are we going to keep letting Israel do this to our children? And he's quote tweeting this tweet that says, this is one of the most horrific videos I saw in my life. Israel did this to a child. My friend doctor sent me this video of a child who arrived at the hospital 4 hours ago. I just asked him about her, and he said she died in a few minutes after she showed up. I'm not going to click the video. I'm not going to show it to you. But I just want you to know that in that tweet is literally one of the most disturbing videos, if not the most disturbing video I've ever seen in my life. It's a child, probably 5 years old, I would say, about 5 years old, who's in a hospital in Gaza, and the face is almost completely charred, and she has wounds that obviously killed her virtually immediately. Her guts were sort of hanging out of her stomach. This is a 5-year-old child that has that happening. This has been going on for 2 years, guys. We're nearing 2 years of this happening. And I think the thing that is most scary to me is that now nobody's even bothering to talk about it. Nobody's talking about it. The media isn't covering it. It's very few and far between. People have just sort of vaguely accepted that, oh, well, I guess Israel does this, and I guess the Palestinians are victims of the violence, and I guess it is what it is, right? And like, for humanity's sake, we should never be resigned to that. What if that was you? What if that was your family? What if that was your mom or your kids, your daughter, your son, right? Your sister, your brother? What if it was me? What if it was, anybody you actually care about there? Well, these are all people. These are all human beings. These are all families. These are all people with hopes and dreams and wishes. And their life is being exterminated right in front of our eyes, and they're being treated as like less than fucking dogs, right? I get the sense that people would care way more if Israel was like mass murdering puppies. At this point, there would be more outrage. Now we're nearly 2 years into them just obliterating the entire Palestinian people. And it's like people just shrugged and gone, okay, I guess this is how it is. Well, that's unacceptable. That's unacceptable. This requires our maximum amount of moral outrage. And what this requires is a complete and utter fucking embargo of Israel, right? A complete and utter embargo. The fact that we can still sit back and watch this happen. We all know what the answers are. In a world that made sense, the U.S. would immediately cut off the money to Israel, cut off the weapons, condemn them at the UN, sanction the government, sanction their individual government officials, bring them up on war crimes charges, arrest Netanyahu, arrest the generals, force peace on them and broker a deal for Palestinian liberation and sovereignty. I don't really care what they have to say anymore. They're in a bloodlust manic state, and the country's lost its fucking mind. I don't care what they have to say. But the fact that you have a precious little child with her fucking guts hanging out, and that video's on social media, and people yawn, they scroll right by it. That's got to do something to our collective mentality that is not healthy. It's not good. If that was a little American girl, would we all just fucking scroll by it? So it's time to wake up, man. It's time to wake up. It's official. Israel is committing genocide, and I just feel like it's now getting less coverage than something would have gotten if it was 2 months into the genocide or 3 months into the genocide. We're fucking 2 years deep, and they're implementing the final solution. And the world shrugs. It's unacceptable. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.